folks. We're in a podcast on location stuff. Have you guys done? You guys are coming up on 200 episodes now, right? Have you recorded 200 yet?
Not yet. I think we just did 194.
Dang.
So yeah, six away.
That's crazy. It's funny. At what point did it? We're recording, by the way. Here, I'm sure you knew that. Was there a point where it kind of just became second nature? Like this is something that you do. The first 15, 20, it's still you got to be part of the schedule. But after a certain period of time, this is part of the routine. This is what we do. At what point did you kind of get that feeling?
I would say after 50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe after 50. I think it was like it's not even in the back of your mind anymore. You know, you just know what you're doing. You're going in there. You're going to do it. You know how the editing process happens. You know how to promote the show. And it just became routine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. Doing something on the side, talking to a lot of interesting people. It's just wild when I look back at the people you've had on, episodes that I've listened to, and look back at people I've had on. It's wild, just the amount of information that you learn, the interesting people that are around, and it just seems absolutely impossible to even really scratch the surface of the amount of interesting people in Alaska.
Oh, it's crazy how many there are, and there's still a lot more. You know, I'm sure you're getting people, you know, messaging you or saying, "Hey, have you heard about this person or that person?" Or look at this, what this guy's doing. It's just endless, which is great for us, you know, because there's endless content pretty much to put out there and cool people to talk to. And I was trying to do the math yesterday. It's like, man, I'm not a real big talker normally in regular life. I actually will like avoid people if I see them at the grocery store or something like that. But it's funny because, you know, I've done almost 200 episodes, and all our episodes are at least 2 hours. So that's at least 400, 500 hours of talking.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see you in the grocery store, you're probably going to see me and walk away from you.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting difference between like just the general small talk. So if you say hello, I love that. Hey, what's going on? Oh, not much. And then that's kind of it. But I'm not good at, like you said, just in the grocery store in a random aisle talking for 15 minutes about who knows what. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
We can't do like a Safeway aisle podcast, but when you're sitting down and you know this is about asking questions and about getting to the kind of the crux or the insight to life, then it makes it much more interesting than just your basic aisle talk.
Yes, I'm the worst small talk guy. I'm ready to like cut it off right away.
Yeah, for sure. So to cut off the small talk, let's get right to it. So last year in December, you had knee surgery.
I did.
What exactly was
it?
Total.
I had total knee replacement.
Oh, what did that entail? Are you got animal stuff parts in you?
Dude, I'm full bionic, man. I'm the Robo Man now. Man. So basically, I've had multiple. This is my 5th surgery. I've had 2 ACLs, 2 meniscus, and then an arthroscopic surgery. And about 15 years ago, when they did my meniscus, they cut almost 50% of it out from the front, and so all that eventually leads to bone-on-bone and arthritis. And it got to the point where I just couldn't do the stuff I wanted to do. You know, if I went on a hike or I went on a hunt, especially if I went on a mountain hunt, I mean, I would be devastated for like 2 weeks afterwards. I mean, I can't go anywhere. I'm like icing it, barely able to go to work.
They'd probably taken a few too many anti-inflammatories. Like there's Advil for pain, but you start popping 9 or so a day for a couple of days. That's not great on the liver.
Yeah, I actually even just stopped. I just stopped doing it. And I was like, I'm just going to ice it and let it go. Because at one point I was just taking Advil or leave like every single time. Like every time I have a game, every time I go on a walk with the family, it just became like, I got to go back and take some sort of anti-inflammatory. And I actually found that I got less inflamed when I stopped taking that stuff. But the pain was still there.
It's weird. Yeah. So
it just became a point. It just became a point where I couldn't do the things I wanted to do anymore without so much pain. And then it was pain at night. I think that was what the crux of it was. Like when I started feeling pain at night and I couldn't sleep, and I'm supposed to be relaxed, but I can't sleep because of the pain. That's when I decided, I was like, you know what? I just gotta get this done. Mm-hmm. And I talked to so many people about it. Like anytime someone brought it up in like small talk or like, oh yeah, my knee, I would just like ask them, who's your surgeon? What'd you do? How do you feel? Would you do it again? And every single person's response was, I wish I would have did it earlier. It's the best thing I ever did. I shouldn't have waited. So that just like solidified my idea to just get it done.
Mm-hmm. So you have the surgery, and then about a month and a half or so later, you drew the mountain goat tag. So right after surgery, what was your mindset? And then once you draw the tag, was it like, okay, we got to do this? What were your emotions?
Well, I had been putting in for that tag for like 10 years. So I went on that hunt about 10 years ago with my brother and his buddy, and they had a party goat hunt, and we were successful then. And so ever since then, I've been wanting to go back. I was like, I know how to get there. I know that the goats are there. It's somewhat close to Anchorage, so you can time the weather. And so I've been putting in with Brandon, because Brandon went with me as well. And we were party hunting this whole time, like for the last 9 years. And then this year, I was like, I'm just going to put in myself because, if we get it, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go anyway because my knee, I'll still be recovering. You're not supposed to do anything for like a year, they say. It takes a year to recover. And lo and behold, of course, I put it in by myself, just, throwing a dart in the air. And of course I get it. And I'm like, oh no, now put the pressure on me to really, really hit the rehab hard, really start planning like, okay, am I going to be able to do this? I definitely knew I was going to need to bring at least 3 other people with me because there's no way 2 people can do it, but I didn't trust my knee yet. So I was like, I better bring as many people as possible so that people can carry shit.
Yeah. What was the mindset when you first, like, at what point were you? Yeah, like you're a month and a half into the rehab, so like you're just barely doing anything. Are you like walking with a cane at this point? You're not doing lateral hops or anything like that? So what was the rehab like at that point?
So at that point, I was pretty much in the bed, just doing stuff at home, walking around. I was on a walker. I was actually on a walker for like 3 weeks. And then from there, I went to crutches, and I'm going to physical therapy twice a week. And I actually became really good friends with my therapist. He's an awesome guy, Pearson, who moved here from New York, but he's totally into hunting and he's totally into hockey. He's totally into all the things that I love to do. So, I mean, I got a big shout out to him because he's the one that he pushed me so hard. I mean, I would dread going in there. I would cry in there. I would whine. I would bitch. I would be just hurting so bad. Like, I don't want to go. And he's like, you're going to want to do this. Think about that goat, and he's just like, he's bending my knee, making me cry. I'm like, oh, I don't want that goat.
Yeah, I've had a couple of former players when I was coaching basketball tore the ACL and whatnot, and then they even talk about adults going through some periods of like depression because you have your good days where the rehab is good, but it just seems so long, and it seems like you're not making the improvements that you need to make. Did you have some days where you were kind of down in the dumps, or were you able to stay pretty positive?
Oh man, I definitely had some days where I was like, is this thing right? Like, did they put it on right?
It's backwards.
Like, did they align it right? Like, is this thing? And you go online and you're like, okay, what does it feel like after 3 months? What does it feel like after 5 months? And you're looking and like, oh, okay, yeah, this is normal. This is normal. And then there was definitely down days. There's days where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. I'm on the bike and it hurts, and it was definitely a roller coaster up and down.
Mm-hmm. When did you first start to feel like you were like this was going to happen? Like you were on your way to making this? Was this like a spring thing, or was it kind of touch and go into the summer?
I would say right around June. Yeah, so that was maybe 6 months. I think in June I started feeling good. I was able to ride the bike outside. The weather changed. It was warmer, and I just felt like, oh man, this thing is really, really getting better. I'm getting stronger. The swelling is not swelling up so much. So I think right around then. But what really sucked is, I had the hot dog stand, and I didn't have anybody to really work, so I had to be the one pushing that cart up. I had to be the one standing there all day, and just standing still was like the worst thing. So anybody that came by the stand this summer, they see me. I'm over there doing my bends. I'm doing my lunges. I'm like doing a bunch of stretching while I'm at the stand. Like, what's this guy, the aerobic hot dog guy over there, just doing stretches all day?
So let me do my thing, man. Don't
Yeah, yeah,
nothing to see here. Yeah, that's once spring starts coming around, and then summer, you just get that boost of adrenaline and excitement. And I mean, if you're coming back from an injury, that's a whole different thing. But the amount of juice that you get, and you come out of it, and you're ready to really start to make things happen.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And then once I was able to start going on like hikes, and pushing myself a little bit there, I was like, oh, you know what, this is going to be good. I felt like I was ahead of schedule. So I got in a few good hikes in the summertime, with the backpack on, and didn't go too crazy, but it really improved my confidence. Thinking, okay, you know what, I can get after this hunt. I can do it if I watch the weight I have in my pack and I stretch really good and mentally focus. I felt pretty confident that I could do it.
Mhm.
And the team I brought with me also, I mean, that was amazing that they came to
Mhm.
basically just help me.
Yeah. Carrying weight and hiking is the only way to really get prepared for carrying weight and hiking. But I've found like reverse lunges with some weight is like a really, really great exercise. Was there an exercise that you felt that kind of helped you out? I think sometimes year in, year out, we just get used to, well, I've done this before, so I'm just gonna, do what I usually do. But sometimes you want to be in better shape. So was there anything that you thought, hey, this is actually a really good exercise and it's preparing me, and this is going to be part of my annual get back into shape or stay in shape type thing?
I think you nailed it on the head. The lunges and the reverse lunges. That I had like little weights at my house, and I had like ankle weights and stuff like that. And so any kind of downtime where I'm just kind of sitting around, I would just be like, let me hit a couple lunges real quick. Let me try this backwards. And there was one, I don't know what it's called, where you put your back foot like up on a chair or something, and then you do then you bend down as you're holding weight. I mean, that I felt like that one was really interesting, because at first it's just like really wobbly, and then after you get used to it and you're getting stronger, then you can hold that position. You're like, oh man, this feels good.
Yeah. I think it's the elevated or the Bulgarian split squat.
Yes, yes, yes. That. Yes. Oh,
It's the
oh
one.
man, that was tough.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, I would be doing that at the hot dog stand with my back foot on the cooler. And I'm just like, as I'm like holding like 10 packs of hot dogs, I didn't forgot the weights.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. All right, so what was the first hunt you went on the year? So that was kind of the first challenge. Did you get out early for caribou or sheep or anything?
No, the first hunt was the goat hunt.
Okay, and when was that?
We went, so the plan was to go Labor Day weekend, and we were going to leave Thursday and have all the way to Monday. So that was like 5 days. And we weren't 100% sure that we were going to get to if the weather, but I had made plans to go. So I was going to go on the goat hunt at September, and then I was going to go on the moose hunt. And then if I hadn't got the goat, we were planning to go back in October to go back and get the goat, because I think the season went all the way to the 15th. So we had a really big window there. And we want to play it by weather, because, you get up in the mountain and it's clouded in or fogged in or snowed in. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're just kind of stuck there, right?
Yeah.
So the first plan actually was successful. So I ended up going with Tyler Bryan, who is Roam Wild. He's an insane photographer
Oh
and
yeah.
videographer. He wanted to come and film and take some pictures for us, which I thought was amazing. And then Brandon, of course, is coming. And then Emily, who's such a hardcore trooper, she came along too. Jack was going to come, but he was going on a sheep hunt with somebody else. So my plan was to have 5 of us, and it ended up being 4 of us, which actually ended up being perfect.
Mm-hmm. So started the hunt. What would you do? What was it like?
So the hunt was a hunt where you go on the lake. We went on Kenai Lake. I don't mind telling people where it was. I mean, if you
It's
draw this hunt, just
it's a
give
tough
me a
draw.
call, because I'll show you. I will help you. Well, I don't know if I'll go up there with you, but I'll tell you how to get there.
Yeah.
So you go on the Kenai Lake, and we were going to camp at the entrance where we knew there was kind of a path. And when we went 10 years ago, we had marked the trail with like flagging tape. And I was like, oh, that was 10 years ago. It might still be there. I kind of know the way, but hopefully we can find some of these pink flagging tape pieces we left up. And so we go to where we're going to camp, and we're going to just stay there. And then the next morning we're going to hike up to the top, and we get there, and there's like a big church group that had rented this area. And we're like, oh no. So they're like, well, we have this whole area right here, but there's a little island across. You guys can go on Porcupine Island and there's nobody over there, which actually worked out to the benefit of us because we ended up going to that Porcupine Island and it gave us a vantage point of the whole front face of those mountains.
Hmm.
So we were able to park, set up the camp, pull up the boat and start glassing right there. And so as we're glassing, I see two, and then we see two, and it's tough to tell what they are, if they're nannies or if they're billies. And then I saw one like up to the left by himself, and I was like, oh, that one's substantially bigger and by himself, and he's
Right.
in like this crazy spot. I was like, that has to be a billy.
Of course.
So that was very encouraging, right? We're like, all right, well, there's some right there. It's actually the way we're gonna go, So the next morning we get up early and start the hike, and I mean, it's just brush. It takes all day. It's one of those where it's 3 miles, but it takes 10 hours.
Right.
So there's rocks and there's climbing and there's trees, and we did find some of the flagging tape, and someone else must have gone up there because there's another flagging tape. And luckily we found, because you get to this certain spot and you're supposed to go back down this ravine and then go back up to go follow the ridge all the way up. And luckily we found that somehow. And then once we got through there, we kind of took a bad turn. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, I think my earbuds are dying. It does. So anyway, so we get past the ravine and we kind of took a wrong turn, and we had to brush through brush and get all the way up before we cleared the tree line, and finally got up to the top. And that's probably the most brutal day, is just try to get all the way up to the top there, going from whatever it is to almost 5,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And we get up there and then the wind is just howling. It's just howling like crazy. So we set up the camp in like a little nook that's kind of out of the wind, at least from one side. And we decided the next day we're going to go walk around and go look, because by the time we got up there, it was already kind of late. And so we set up the camp or whatever, and the teepee, and Emily was in her tent and Tyler was in his tent. And then we're glassing and we don't see anything. We don't know what happened to those three that we saw. And then the next day we wake up early and go hike up and start looking down all the bowls. And we don't see anything at all. Actually, we saw a ram. We saw a ram when we went up there, which was cool. Yeah, that area is closed for sheep. It used to be open before. And actually, that was the first time I went up there 12, 13 years ago, was for my buddy's sheep, which we didn't get one. And now they've since closed it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the numbers are. They're not looking good, but we did see a ram, which was really cool. It was maybe 7 years old, which that was really encouraging and cool to see something. So we went hiking all day, looked in there, and then the weather came in and fogged us all the way in. And we sat it out for like 2 hours, and I'm like, all right, well, let's just go back to camp. It's not going to get better. Of course, you get all the way to camp and it clears up.
Of course.
So we get to camp. We're like, all right, we're eating dinner and getting ready and getting ready for bed, actually. And then I go to like use the bathroom, and I'm down kind of away from the camp, and I look over and I see this white thing just like running like towards us. I was like, oh shoot, there's a goat right there. And it happened to be that huge billy. And so he went and he laid down, and then he got up, and it's getting dark. It's already like 10:30 at night. And so we're watching them. I go get everyone out of the tent. I was like, oh, there's a goat. And this thing went all the way down. Like, we think it went all the way down to the lake to get water. And we're like, okay, well, it went down all the way there. So we stayed up as long as we could till we couldn't see anymore, hoping that we would see which way he would come back up. But we never saw him come back up. So we went to bed that night. Almost lost the teepee that night. The wind was insane. And we messed up on the teepee. I mean, we slept in the teepee lots of times. And you always want to put some sort of rock or something on those stakes, so in case the wind gets absolutely crazy and it pops the stake. But all we had was like some sharp edges on some of those rocks. And as the wind was turbulating and just popping that thing, it ended up breaking some of the guy lines.
Yeah.
That was connecting the thing. And then it just was pure mayhem at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I wake up and Brandon wakes up and like, oh no, the tent's just slapping, water get on us. We're like, oh no. I'm holding the pole. Brandon runs outside to try to like, stake the thing down. And we're like, oh, and then from there, there's no sleeping, because it's like, is this thing going to hold? It's still going. We had to like makeshift tie this thing because it ripped. And so like one more time I had to get up because I popped another one. And so it was just a really, really bad night of sleep that night.
What kind of TP was it?
It was a Black Diamond Megalite.
Okay. And then
Now those,
other gear that you have, was it Stone Glacier, rain pants, jacket, pack, and what else you got camping wise or gear wise?
yep. I use the Stone Glacier pants, the rain pants, which are amazing.
The
I
M5s
actually
or the
I did, yeah,
M7s?
the M5s, and I have the M7 jacket,
Mm.
which which is nice because it has that fleece on the inside. And it doesn't make you feel clammy. You know, if you
Yeah.
have just like a shirt underneath, you
Yeah.
don't feel all that sticky clammy, which I liked. It's a little bit burly. You know, it's probably better for really late season. For maybe even snow would be better, but it worked really well. And then for sleeping bag, I have a Western Mountaineering Alpenlight, which is like super puffed up, and that thing like compresses down to nothing. And that's been my go-to bag for mountain hunting. But I did
Nice.
go with all Stone Glacier stuff this year. I want to test out that jacket, and I bought a pair of their pants. I forget what the Haviland
Yeah.
pants. Those
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, those things are super burly.
Yeah, they're
I almost
nice.
feel like those are like almost a little too thick for that hot time we win. I would think that would be really nice for like moose hunting or something. They're
Yeah,
really
I like the
really
vents on
sturdy.
those, and you can go like if it's colder and you're not hiking a whole lot, you can go like long johns underneath, and then those, and they really stand up to the brush down here really well. But usually things are so wet, I usually go with the M7s, and the M7s are super good against the brush. I've had a lot of
You have the
opportunities.
M7 pants?
Yeah, I got the M7 pants, and they like you square up a bush or a piece of brush, and that's where like the weak stuff will tear. It would put like a little nick in it, but man, these things are tough. So I'm really a big fan of that stuff. But then you look at the other stuff too. It's not that Kuyu sucks or that Sitka sucks. Like it's all really, really good stuff. It's just a matter of what you can get your hands on, and then kind of what you excuse yourself to buy.
Yeah, exactly. And I have everything. I mean, I'm wearing First Light pants right now, and I've done the Q. I love the attack pants. Brandon's wearing a bunch of sick, and Emily has a deal going with Cafaro, so she's doing a bunch of Cafaro stuff, and Tyler had a bunch of Q stuff too. And I mean, all that stuff is pretty comparable.
Yeah.
It just depends on
Yeah.
what you want to wear, what color you like, really.
I do like watching films of people that are all like mixed and matched. So you have like three or four buddies who are out hunting, and everybody is just, it's a garage sale of whatever's available. I think that's really cool when everybody is wearing brand new stuff from the same brand. You're like, yeah,
Oh yeah, you know what? I'll be honest. I was that guy like 15 years ago where I'm just straight all VS camo, QU, head to toe, and then after a couple of years, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be that guy.
yeah. When you replace one thing at a time too, like this jacket goes, and so rather than replace it with the same one you have, maybe try something else. So I was able to get my hands on my first system was a Sitka system, but then as I added more stuff, I got some Stone Glacier stuff. So it's kind of a mix and match of both of those things. But
I think for our body types, like you and me, we're kind of tall, lanky kind of guys. That Stone Glacier stuff is like fit for us.
yeah, it's a little bit
You
bigger.
know,
It's like taller
yeah,
and
it's a little
longer.
bit bigger, a little bit longer. Like the sleeves are a little bit longer because that's my problem. I have really long arms, so a lot of times like the fit will be good, but then like I can't raise my arms because the sleeves are gonna come up to my elbow.
Right. Yeah. All right. So now we got the gear down. Back to the hunt. So you slept hardly at all. You wake up and it's on.
Yeah, so we wake up after that terrible night with the teepee, and we're just kind of having coffee, having some breakfast. The goal is to go a little further this time and look through more of the bowls because we know those goats are somewhere around there. And we're like, oh, that one that we saw last night must have came up in the night and we didn't see him. So we're kind of getting ready, and then Emily's like, well, I'm just gonna go look around, go look down over there real quick. And she goes, and here comes the goat coming up that drainage. So we get all excited. We start putting all our stuff on, like, all right, there he is. Let's watch him. Let's watch him. So he gets up and he goes and he like digs out this bed. He digs out this bed and he's literally like same level we are, but there's a huge ravine, so we're gonna have to go around. And he's just laying there. He dug this huge ravine out. And you could tell he's a big boy. That's the way he was coming up out of that drainage. He's like struggling. He's like, oh, you could just see his muscles working. And he goes and he lays down and it was sunny that day. So so in my mind, I was like, oh, he's just going to lay there all day. He went all the way down. He got his water. He struggled to come back up. He's probably tired. Dug his hole. He's going to lay there all day. I was like, he's in a perfect spot. We're going to go up and around. We're going to come down and find him laying right there. We'll get him right there. So we get all our stuff on and we go up and we go around to where we think he is. And we're coming down and it's kind of like plateau to plateau to plateau going down. One of those endless, like next ridge. Oh, no, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And so we get there. And before we get to where we think he is, I got to credit Emily. She's like, you know what? Why don't we go look to the right? Because if we keep going down, we'll blow ourselves out if he happened to move to the right. So I was like, all right, that's a good idea. Let's go to the right and just make sure that area is clear before we come back to the left. Because if we go left right away, he would see us if he's sitting on the right and then he'd run off. So we go to the right and he happens to be laying down over there. So he got up from his spot. I don't know if he spotted us when we were moving up the mountain or something spooked him, but he ended up being laying down in this other ravine. And so we get all stoked, and it's probably the worst like shooting spot you could ever. It's at like a, like, I don't know, 50-degree angle. And there's no laying down. There's no knee. It's just brush. It's just like, how am I going to get this thing? Yeah, go ahead. So I lay down and I ended up scooting up and I found a spot where he must have been laying down. And there's actually a bunch of goat shit right there. And I just nestled in right in that. It was like the only little tiny flat spot. And I kind of stuck my barrel through these grass. It's like I could see him right there. And I think he was like 67 yards just down in this ravine. And so Brandon comes down because they're trying to film it. And he's right behind me. And Tyler's up above trying to film. And Brandon, he says he said something to me, which we can hear in the video, but I was so locked in because he was wanting me to tell him when I'm going to shoot. And I got down, and as soon as I got in position, he like got up. The goat got up, and I was like, oh no, he heard somebody or saw someone. So I didn't even hesitate. I was just like, boom.
Yeah.
I just hit him, and it was a perfect shot. And he just started tumbling down the mountain. And, we're all hooting and hollering, and yeah, we got him and all that. And then it became like, okay, well, what's the plan? And I remember from last time we messed up last time and went right down after him and realized that our camp is all the way back at the top. So I told the crew, I was like, well, let's just go back because he's obviously not right here. He tumbled. Who knows how far he tumbled? And if we go down there, we're probably not gonna be able to come back up because it's like that scree stuff.
Right.
That, like, you can't go up that stuff. It's impossible. So I was like, all right, well, let's go back and get to camp. So we go all the way back. We get to camp. And our plan is like, we're just going to go all the way down. I was like, we'll figure it out. He's down there somewhere. We'll find him. And then we'll go all the way down to the lake. And then we'll have to just walk the lake all the way back to the boat. And so we start going down. And it got so sketchy, Jeff. There was a couple of spots, dude. Like, I've only been like, I don't know what the word is, where you're just scared motionless, because you figure you got yourself in a spot that's like, you can't go back up, you can't go left, you can't go right, you can't go down, and you're mad at yourself. Like, why did you get yourself in this position? And I think it happened to all of us because we're all trying to pick our best way down this like cliffy area. And man, Jeff, man, I got to this spot, man, I was just scared motionless. I was just like, what am I doing, man? Why did I go right here, and turned out to be like, hands and knees, grabbing the rock, just barely sliding, and had to do like a crazy butt slide down this thing. And we finally made it out of that, which was super scary. And this thing rolled all the way down, literally like 900 feet from the lake. So it was a good call that we went back up and got to camp because there would have been absolutely no way that we were going to go back up that way. And there was no way we wanted to go back up around the way we came either. Like, well, that's just part of the mountain now if we left it there.
Yeah. Yeah, that getting frozen stuff, man, it's pretty spooky. Down here, we don't have as much of that scree. We do have a little bit of it, but it's mostly that monolithic glacial carved stuff. So last year, actually, on a mountain goat hunt, there was a point where we were going up, and it was just straight up, and it was kind of heather, covered rocks for the most part, but it was straight up and it started to kind of rain. I didn't have my gloves on, so my hands were really, really cold and we're like climbing straight up. And so I start thinking in my head, I put myself in this situation, but also my wife in this situation, and it's straight up and
Mm.
I have my knees dug into the side of the mountain. I got my hands like clawing as I'm going up. And I just start thinking about what if I grab and like through the heather, a rock like falls. Abby wasn't right behind because she's smart. You don't hike right up behind someone. She was off to the side a little bit, but you got falling rock. You got all kinds of stupid stuff. So I got to the top and I was just kind of needed a second to take my breath. And then it occurred to me once I got to that point, it would have been way easier to just kind of go around a little bit. But some of these areas you don't have any other way. Like this is it. And that's horrible.
Yeah, that's the position we were in. It was like, this is the only way. And it was really scree, which was nice. I love going down scree because that's easy on the knee and you can just kind of like ski down that scree. But then it got cliffy. And right when it got cliffy, it started pouring rain.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was like the worst thing because it's already like sketchy, and then it's raining, so it's slippery, so everything's like glossy, and all those rocks are loose. Like I'd be like trying to grab one and be like, "Is this thing gonna come off if I pull on it?" And it starts to pop off the mountain, and rocks are coming down on their own, and like halfway down, we're like, "Man, well, did we miss this thing? Like, did it get hung up somewhere else?" And Brandon sees a bunch of birds up top, like circling, and we're like, "Oh no." I was like, no way, we passed this thing up. Like, how do we miss it? And we're like, well, we can't go back up. So let's just go down and hope that we didn't miss it. And that's at the bottom. And luckily it was down there at the bottom.
Nice. So you get to it, you take care of it, process it. And how long did that all take?
Well, there was all four of us getting in on it. And the bugs were insane because once we got down there, the sun came out. And then it was just hot and the flies, and it was like head net. Like Brandon refused to put a head net on, but the rest of us put a head net on. He's like, I can't put a head net on, trying to be all manly and shit.
Oh, that sounds like him for sure.
I was like, okay, you do whatever you want, man. I'm going to put my headlamp on because I can't be swinging my arms around holding this knife.
Yeah.
And so we cut that whole thing up, and I wanted to bring out the entire hide just to get it tanned. I'm not doing like a mount or like a shoulder mount. Nothing. I just want the tanned hide so I could put it up in the cabin. And that thing, man, that thing was so heavy, dude. I can't believe how heavy that hide was. It was because it's all muddy and wet because it was raining, and then he fell down, and luckily none of the horns broke off. It was still intact, and we only had to go 900 yards, I would say, down to the bottom. But it was probably the hardest 900 yards I've ever done in my life. Because the scree ended, so you're actually trying to like not fall on this rock, and I probably have like 140 pounds in my pack, and it's definitely the most weight I've had in my pack. And I'm thinking about my knee, like I'm going extra slow because I was like, don't hurt yourself right now, So it took a long time to get down to the bottom, and then once we got them all packed up and down to the bottom, we realized, well, shit, we're gonna have to walk the lake all the way back to where the boat is. So it took us so we're like, all right, well, Brandon and I will go. You guys hang out. And if you see a boat go by, try to flag them down and he can give you guys a ride. It'd be a lot quicker. And I guess some boat guy went by, but it was a pouring rain and he wasn't looking to the side. And so Brandon and I thinking, we're just going to walk the edge of the lake all the way back. Like there's a trail. There's no fucking trail.
No.
Dude, we're having to go out into the lake like waist deep because there's trees down and rocks, and there's no way you can go above it. So we're going out, and it's like already getting dark. It's like 11 p.m.
And that lake is not it's not a warm lake. There's no.
No, it's a glacier. It's a glacier lake, and it actually felt really good on your feet because once you commit, you're like, all right, well, we got to get back. And it felt really good. Your feet are just burning from that hike and that climb. And we're just, it took us, I think, almost an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to the boat and walking. And I remember the face when we came around the corner and there was this guy out by the boat from the church group, and he looks at us. He's like, holy shit. He's like, we didn't say that.
I was going to say, he was real surprised.
He was surprised. He's like, where did you guys come from? Like, because you just see me and Brandon looking rugged, just all wet, bloody, and like, just came out of nowhere, He's like, oh my, he's like, oh yeah, we thought someone told us that there were some guys up there, and hopefully we weren't too loud. I was like, we didn't hear you guys. And So he actually helped us get the boat off and went back and got the boat. And Tyler and Emily had started a fire, which was like
Nice.
glorious to see when we got there. It was just pouring rain and we were wet all the way up to our waist. And just the fire was just amazing. And there was some beers in the boat. And oh man, we were cheering in and having the fire. And it was just, it was such a great feeling.
Nice. That's awesome. So you felt total redemption. The knee was fine. Did you have to ice it down a little bit, or were you just like kissing it and thankful for the doctors?
Oh man, the knee did so good, Jeff. I haven't felt any pain.
Hmm.
Like I feel soreness in my muscles because I lost maybe half my quad and half my calf, from sitting around for that long and not doing much. So I felt soreness, but not pain like I used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was so excited. I was so happy with it, and just like, oh my gosh, just felt like I could do anything now.
Yeah. There's a big difference between like joint pain and muscle soreness. So after you go for a run or after you go for a hike, like your muscles are going to be sore. That's expected. But if your hip itself hurts or your knee hurts or inside the ankle joint hurts, it's like, that's not what we're doing. That's not good.
Yeah. And I'd even say there's a difference between that and arthritic pain, because I had a lot of arthritis before, and that arthritis pain, man, it just feels like just throbbing in there, and someone just keeps like jabbing a pencil in there, like da, 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 da,
Yeah.
feel it, So oh man, so not feeling that was amazing.
So then you get back and shoot, you got the goat. So it's all gravy now. You go out and you go to moose camp and get an awesome bull.
Yeah, so literally like 3 days later, we did the full turnaround and like loaded up the 6x and the 4-wheelers and the meat trailers and we had, I mean, if you've been on a moose hunt, I mean, that's like luxury. We're bringing everything. We're bringing everything possible. The biggest pad, the biggest sleeping bag, biggest tent, grills, beers, steaks, like egg, bacon, just like we had so much shit. It was unbelievable. But we're like, after that Sufferfest we kind of did, I was like, we're gonna go live it up. And we sure did live it up, man. So we ended up going to our buddy Chad's spot. And hey, sorry, my kids are getting rambunctious up there. So we ended up going to Chad's spot, and his spot is up there by Toke, between kind of Toke and Chicken area. And that's a hell of a long drive.
Right.
And we get all the way up there and we spend the night and we go in on the trail. And it's one of those trails where it's like, 7 miles, but it takes you 8 hours, to get there. And a lot of mud, a lot of winching. And, we're so heavy going in and we're actually heavier coming out, which was nice. But we get to his spot and there's some dudes there. So we're like, whoa, he's like, man. So you kind of like talking to these guys, and those guys are like, well, we've been here since 2002. And
oh
Chad's
boy,
like, well, I haven't seen you. I've been here the last 8 years in a row. I've never seen you, and Chad is kind of upset because he's made his little plateau spot beautiful, dug out places to like hang your rope and places to put your tent and like places to sit. And it's just a really, really awesome spot. Right. So we're kind of bummed. We're like, well, do we turn around and go back to the road and just try out one of these other trails? Because, as you're driving, you just see trail here, trail there. Like, who knows where these trails go? Yeah. So we're like, okay, well, that sucks that we unloaded and did all this and have to go back. And he's like, well, no, let's just push further and see if we can cross this creek. And we'll just go on the other side of this creek, and then we'll kind of be out of these guys' way. And that actually was the move, because we ended up getting the moose. All the moose would come from that way. And then they'd cross the creek and go in front of Chad's camp. And so we kind of like, unfortunately, kind of blocked those guys because we're far away from them. But like the moose were coming from that way. And obviously we would get to them first before they made it across the creek. So and in hindsight, like we actually had probably the best spot of the whole area.
Yeah, I've never heard people talk about spots or camps more than like a moose camp. Obviously, like down south, you have your whitetail camp because that's private property or whatever. But as far as keeping things secret and as far as making camp nice and having like your spot, moose hunting is far and beyond anything else. Like when you said it's like in the Toke and Chicken area you talked about, it's an area like the size of, a state or something like that. It's a massive area. So you're not even really giving anything away. But yeah, that's tough when there are some people who've cut trails down here in Southeast. for access up to mountain goats or access for deer. And they will just not say anything about it. If you happen to come upon one of their trails, you just like use the trail and you don't say a word about it. You just happen to be there and that is it. And people are, it's not your wilderness. It's not your outdoors. It's not your spot, but there's definitely something to be said for respecting people who've maybe put some time in to build a trail or improve the campground or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, 100%. And, when you run into that, like you want to definitely give enough space for those guys and go find your own spot. And people, you're not supposed to, but people be leaving shit, people will leave, like the wall tent frame, or people will stash stuff in a barrel somewhere. And you run across that stuff all the time when you're out just like, cruising around looking for new spots. And you realize, okay, well, this is someone's kind of established area. Let's take a note of that and make sure we're well beyond their area.
Mm-hmm. So you make camp. Well, it doesn't seem like a lot of, I've never been on a moose hunt. I love talking about it as a way to kind of educate myself. Some people will stay in the same spot for 7 to 10 days and they will call within 100 yards or so of camp. They're not going out walking around. They're not going out scouting. It's a matter of something coming towards camp in that vicinity or calling it in. And if not, then not, but you're not seeking out from that point. So what's your strategy?
Yes. So that is the main strategy to do that. But it's so hard to do that. Especially for guys that go out and go mountain hunting and hiking a lot and all that stuff. Like it's the toughest thing to just sit there every single day, especially if you don't see something. And all of us are big time mountain hunters. And so Chad and we went, so obviously we didn't sit still. we would sit there and then we're like, all right, well, there's nothing here. Let's hike back around and see if we can see what's on the other side of this thing. And so every day a couple of us would go do a little trek, like a little, maybe a mile and a half to this other vantage point that you could see, like kind of the valley behind the valley we're looking at. And of course, that's where all the bulls are at. And of course, you can't get to them because they're just so far deep. So we're like trying to call them from there to hopefully bring them closer towards the camp. And I want to say like the 4th day, we're back there. Oh, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, sorry. My earbuds, I had to go direct to phone. So of course, like the 4th day, we're back there and we could see the hill from the camp, the hill that we're glassing and calling, we could see it from back there. And so we get back there, and as soon as we get there, and it's not like an easy walk, dude. There's tussocks and it's, and my buddy Josh, he's kind of a big boy and he hadn't been on a hunt like that. He's struggling, dude, and sweating, and you got to climb up this half the side of this mountain so you get some elevation to look. And of course we get all the way there. It takes about an hour to get back in there. And we get there and we look back and there's 2 bulls right by the camp.
Perfect.
I go, great. Great. So we're like, I told you we should have stayed there. And, it just became a thing. So we ended up busting ass all the way back to the camp. And we ended up calling one and it started coming right to the camp. But it was already getting dark. And this thing came maybe like 400, 500 yards from the camp and just kind of stopped in these like spruce trees. And it wouldn't come any closer. And I was like ready, but then it got too dark. I was like, oh, even if this thing comes, like I'm not gonna be able to see it. So we just ended up being like, all right, forget it. Hopefully he's there in the morning. Got up early the next morning. He's gone. He's nothing there. It's all fogged in. And I think we got fogged in for like 2 days after that. The weather came, the rain came. I mean, the snow came. It was just, we're just weathered in, right? And then the last day came around. We were supposed to leave on the Sunday, but the season didn't close till Tuesday. So we kind of had like a audible there, like, well, let's just stay till the end. They're finally moving around. Like the first like 7 days, they weren't reacting at all. But then in the last like 2 days, they started coming to calls. I'm like, all right, well, we can't leave now. So everyone calls their families and calls their work and whatever, and lets them know that we're going to be a little bit longer. And actually we couldn't go back anyway because all that rain had risen that creek. So there was no going out of there anyway. So we had to basically wait for the river to come down to even get out of there. But that kind of benefit, it kind of made us have to stay, right?
Yeah.
And so then the next morning, after the fog, and we decided it's Sunday now, then we wake up, and there's always a couple guys that would get up really early and do start the calls real early, 5 a.m. and all that stuff. And then there's different strategies. I'm more of a crack of noon kind of guy on the moose hunt. I don't mind getting up early here, a few times, but I think you should take turns and let somebody do it. And then some people stay up at night, and some people are there at noon when everyone's taking a nap. But anyway, we get our buddy Chad. He's like, "Oh, there's two over there. There's two on the hill by the camp, and one is coming to the call." So I get up, and I think it's like 8 in the morning, and get all my stuff on, and this thing got called in it would have came right to the fire if we wanted it to. This thing was just on a rope, they say. And it was just coming. I got in position, and it could have been an archery hunt the way this thing was coming so close. But I was so excited. I was like, first opportunity this thing presents, I'm just going to take it. In my mind, that's what I'm thinking. These guys aren't like, "Oh, it's coming. They're literally on the camp chairs watching it, sitting there drinking their coffee. And I'm like, I'm gonna go down the hill a little bit, because what if he comes around this way? And first opportunity, this thing just barely gets past this tree, and I just boom. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna hit this guy." And then it was a good shot, and he ended up going down. And they're like, "Man, you could have waited. It would have came all the way." I was like, "I'm not waiting." I was like, "I'm not waiting for nothing, man. I've been waiting 10 days. I've been waiting my whole life for this moose." So that was a good day, man. Got that beautiful, beautiful moose. Got sunny, and we went back, and Brandon made us go back and get beers and get music and all the stuff. And the two other boys went back to the other spot to continue, because they had another tag. And there was this monster in the back there that we were going on that little hike back there. That was the biggest moose I ever seen in my life. I mean, this thing might have been 80. Whoa. 80 inches. This thing was massive, just like running. He had like 11 cows around him, but he would not move from his spot. Like, other bulls would come, and then they'd leave. Other bulls would come, cows would come, and he would just stay in that spot. Like, he knew, like, nothing can mess with me right here where I'm at. And he did not budge the whole time. But they kept going back and hoping that he'd come out of there, but he never did. He never came out of there. So he's there next year.
Waiting for you at the new spot.
Yeah. That's
awesome, man. What a year. What a year, starting off with the rehab, and then drawing the tag, and then just epic.
Yeah, man. It's, I'd been skunked the last 3 years in a row. And so there was plenty of room in the freezers for this year. So I am very excited and very happy and very thankful to my buddies that came and helped me, and all the food and all the meat we got now, man. It's very, very happy.
Yeah. So what's next on the agenda, or what's the winter schedule looking like?
So winter schedule, I went back to playing hockey. So I've been skating with the boys here once a week. And my plan mostly this winter was to come to the cabin, explore all these lands around here. Ended up buying this little old snow machine that'll be perfect for ice fishing. Go explore around and do a lot of ice fishing and see what happens. I don't have any really hunt plans. We're going to do some bird hunting with the kids and that, but mostly we're going to just do some ice fishing and snow machining around this winter, and then see what happens for next year.
Nice. Loving it. You already put in for the tags for next year, or are you a wait to the last minute type?
I'm normally not a wait to the last minute type. Normally I like to get it done soon, but I have not even looked at it yet.
Yeah.
I have not even looked at it at all. Like, I have I do know, we do have a couple plans. I know we want to go do and I know you've done it before, but Brandon and I were talking about going to do the caribou archery hunt up there on the North Slope.
Yeah.
I want to really go experience that. He wants the redemption on that, because they went before and didn't get one. So kind of figured, okay, well, this time we need to bring a pack raft, and we'll do this and do that. And so I think that's one that's on the books for next year. And then I got invited to, my brother's been going with some of his buddies and coworkers to their camp, their moose camp. And they're older fellas, and they've kind of passed down his spot to my brother. And I've been invited a few times, but every time I had a different plan. So I think next year the plan is to go up to my brother's new spot and kind of make that our own now.
Nice.
We've been kind of looking for a place. I've been going on different moose hunt every year for the last, however long, 15, 20 years, to new areas, different spots, float hunts, this hunt, four-wheeler hunts, raft hunts. And I never had my own spot, And so now that my brother got this passed down to him, I think we're going to try to make that our family spot.
Nice. That's a great plan for years and years to come.
Yeah, I'm excited. Both my kids are excited to go, and I'll probably bring the older one with me this year, and bring my buddy Brandon and Josh out there and do that. And until we get bored with that spot, I definitely want to do some other float hunts and things like that. But I really miss the caribou hunting. I wish. I know there's that winter 40-mile caribou hunt, but ever since they closed that in Alchina, man, that was like my go-to hunt. I would take the whole family and go out there with my kids, and I knew the area so well. But since they closed that, I'm kind of like itching for another caribou spot.
Yeah. There's so many opportunities. It's nice if you're up there on the road system, you can just kind of drive to these spots. It's a matter of time and miles. But down here, it takes a little bit more planning and then figuring out what to do. But we got a lot of cool hunts down here too. You just do a little planning in advance and see what you want to have for an experience and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think wherever you're at in the state, I mean, there's definitely opportunities around your area. And like you said, you guys aren't on the road system, but you guys have amazing deer hunting.
Yeah.
Like that stuff. Like to me, I love deer hunting. It's kind of like a mountain hunt. Well, actually, it is a mountain hunt, depending on which way you do it. But for us in Anchorage, you got to have someone with a boat that's going to take you to Prince William Sound and take you out there. And the weather's crazy, and you have to be ready to go at Tuesday. And I was like, well, I can't just go on a Tuesday,
Yeah, for sure.
So a little envy of that. If you guys can just get going after those deer pretty much all winter, right?
Yeah, till the end of November. I think they were in some areas you can hunt through the end of December, but most people kind of stop at that point because they're pretty rutted out. And at that point, it's a matter of, all right, you made it. We'll let you finish this thing out, and hopefully you'll be around next year.
Yeah.
So Alaska Wild Project, give me the pitch for that and let everybody know where you can find that stuff or order merch or go to events.
Yeah. So as far as Alaska Wild Project, we're putting out the show every week. We do have a YouTube version that comes out on Saturdays. The audio version comes out on Mondays. We redid the website this past December. We kind of moved everything to a different, easier way to do merch. We have a whole bunch of shirts and t-shirts and hats. If you go to alaskawildproject.com, we're plugging away every week and talking to new people. And I think right now we're booked all the way to February.
Oh, wow.
So we have a whole bunch of cool people coming on. We are going to do which I think were you around last year? We're going to do our draw release party again. And I believe that's February 21st. I think it's the Friday. I think it's the third Friday of February. And that's going to be a double shovel. And we're going to have backcountry hunters and anglers and a bunch of our sponsors and have a moose call competition and trivia and all that. So that's kind of the next main event for Alaska Wild Project, other than doing the weekly shows and going to support some of these other film festivals and things that are happening around town. Yeah,
I was up there for a conference just before, I think it was late January. I was up there for a conference, so I missed out on the draw results party, and I also missed out on drawing anything. So there it is.
Yeah, I don't have high hopes of drawing anything. I think I got really lucky on this last one, so I don't ever let that get my hopes up too high on those draws.
For sure. Well, good talking to you, man. Always great catching up, and I was a big fan of what you guys have going on up there with the podcast and everything. So stay in touch, and thanks again.
All right, Jeff. Thank you.
See you, man.